Just appreciate everybody and everything you guys have done this season in terms of getting the word out. Wednesday, tomorrow night, 6 o'clock game. So from time to time, I have fans trying to figure out what time the game is. So if everybody can kind of push that. We're excited to, be a part of the fight here in late February. So most important game is the next game on the schedule. For us, that's tomorrow, 6 o'clock, against an Oklahoma State team that we have a lot of respect for. They've had their share of adversity this year in terms of roster movement and changes, but they've stayed very, very competitive for the most part. Mike does a great job with their team. They've got several players on their team that, in my opinion, are all conference worthy. And so we'll have to play well tomorrow night, as you always have to in the Big 12.
Questions, Coach Beard?
Every coach wants to be in the fight at this part of the season, and you've put your team in a great position. How do you make sure that these last couple games your team's finished to maybe come home with a regular season title?
It's just one game at a time. I mean, there's still a lot of basketball left. We have 4 games. Some of the other teams have 3. So all you can control is just your next game. So for us, it's just the same thing. Nothing changes. It's all about effort and playing hard and giving ourselves a chance, and then playing well and playing together. So, we got a lot of basketball left. When you have the kind of season like we've had, you got a lot to look forward to, whether it be regular season or Kansas City or ultimately the national tournament. So our guys are excited about just competing and being relative this time of year.
I asked you this a couple times. You've been preaching consistency, playing a full 40 minutes. Did you see that against Kansas? Do you feel happy with the overall consistency and making it that 40 minutes, or is there still a little something you want to focus on in these last couple games before heading into postseason?
Yeah, I thought in the Kansas game we basically won the game in the first 20 minutes, the first half. Then we played even with them in the second half. So I think we could play a lot better than we did in the second half, but it's understandable with a big lead and playing against a team like Kansas. I was just pleased that we, basically played even in the second half is what we needed to do to win the game.
During this offensive hot streak, the last 4 games, has anything changed in terms of execution or shot selection, or was it just getting shots to fall that maybe weren't in the first part of conference play?
Yeah, I mean, making shots is just part of basketball, and on nights that the ball goes in, the game can be a little bit easier, but good teams find a way to win even in the nights that maybe the shot's not going in. So I think lately our players are playing with a lot of confidence. It's always been our plan to play our best basketball as March nears, and then certainly in the month of March. Another thing I think with our team, it's a valid point that not many people talk about, is that we're just kind of still a work in progress. We're competing against teams that guys have played together 2 years, 3 years, sometimes even 4, in the case of like a K-State, for example. But we're a relatively new team. We got new players contributing, like Kyler's a freshman, or Deshaun is a junior college transfer, or certainly Matt and Tariq as grad transfers. So we've always talked about trying to improve as the year goes on, just because our guys are, still trying to get that experience playing together.
Coach, can you just talk about Oklahoma State, some of the matchup problems they present for you guys?
Yeah, they've got really good personnel. Love their guard play. I think they have 2 of the best shooters in the Big 12 on the perimeter. They've got a really good young point guard, Isaac, who's tough and thinks the game. He's a great player. We recruited him here to Texas Tech. And then I think McGriff is one of my all-time favorite Big 12 players. In my opinion, Big 12 McGriff's an all-conference worthy guy. Scores the ball, rebounds the ball, and one of the top 2 or 3 offensive rebounders in our conference. So Mike's done a good job. No one looks forward to playing Oklahoma State because they got really good players and they got a good coach.
Chris, I guess how would you kind of describe the last 5 games? How would you describe the way this team's played?
It's hard for me to remember, more than one. Kansas was the last game, then who was before that?
God. You're a jerk. I can't remember most of them, honestly.
Baylor?
Baylor was one of them. I know Oklahoma State was another. What was the other road game? Oklahoma and West Virginia.
I think we Same old story. Nothing's changed. We're still looking for consistency. We started that way back in the summer, telling you guys that I thought we had enough talent to compete. We recruited well, and our players had gotten better in the offseason. We'd coached well. The guys had developed, and now we're just striving for that consistency. So certainly in these last couple of weeks, we found another level of consistency. Are we polished product? No. Got a long ways to go. Still things we can improve on every day, including in practice today. But, we're playing some of our best basketball when it matters most.
How much of a factor have Kyler and Brandon been just from the three-point line, and not only that, but just their defense?
Yeah, Kyler's having a nice season as a freshman. He's contributing. I think he's gotten better as the year goes on. The game's starting to slow down for him a little bit, and he's starting to understand what it's like to play at this level and help a team win. I've always said he's one of our best three-point shooters. When he gets an open look, I have a lot of confidence it's going in. And then he's really improved and embraced the defensive end of the court. He's played a lot of great minutes for us as a freshman. And then Brandon, is having a great senior year. And to me, Brandon, it's not about stats. It's about his attitude and his leadership. He's one of our best players. When he plays well offensively and makes shots and takes care of the ball, our team's better. And he's always been one of our best defensive players because he's tough and he's competitive and, he plays with passion.
Got here, you said there are going to be things you guys will do for the first time. Obviously, this is the first time you've been in the fight after the turn and kind of going into later in the season. How do you kind of prepare your guys for something that they haven't been a part of, so to speak, where you're kind of challenging for a conference title?
At this point last year, we were competing for the regular season championship. We controlled our own destiny at this exact point. Just we weren't healthy, which isn't an excuse. It's the reality of everybody. Injuries can never be an excuse, but it is the reality, and your team has to kind of change. And we did a great job last year, just came up a little bit short in terms of competing for the championship. So first we draw on that experience because we do have some guys, Norris and Brandon, Culver, Morrow, that were part of that ride last year. But every season is kind of a new journey too. So trying to learn from some of the experience we've had in our first 2 years here, but then also trying to write our own chapter for this year's team. But to me, it's about one game at a time. If we don't take care of business with each game, then these questions will stop, and the questions will start being geared towards Kansas City. So it's really a one game at approach time, and trying to play your best game and trying to give yourself a chance.
Coach talked about Davide before the season, how he kind of needs to step up with Keenan gone and into that starting role. What's his next step moving forward, maybe into the postseason, that you want to see him take?
Yeah, it's a good question. It's always, to me, there's always about kind of 2 or 3 different seasons within the season. And with each season, you got your own kind of stat sheet. Most important thing on a stat sheet is wins and losses. And then each individual player's got to kind of do their part, and your team has to play well. So something we've always looked at is how you end up in the season. Your March stats, your Big 12 conference stats. And so I think Morrow would be the first to tell you he's just striving for consistency. He's proven that he can play with anybody in this league. Just like I mentioned McGriff's individual season, I would tell you that I think Morrow is worthy of Big 12, all conference consideration. His stats speak for themselves. So now I think the next step is just to find consistency and try to do it when it matters most. And that's certainly, late February and March in our sport, college basketball.
Off that question, how do you think Moretti has been doing the past couple of games, like with the shooting and defense?
He's doing great. He's just finding, again, another level of consistency. His numbers are there in terms of shooting percentage. He's taking care of the ball. And then so many things that the stat sheet doesn't show, just his leadership, his maturity, experience. He's one of the most popular guys in the locker room. He's got a poise about him. He's very, very professional in all business, but he also enjoys what he does, and that's kind of one of the parts of our culture. We always say we want to be, disciplined and aggressive, but we also want to have more fun than anybody. And I think Morrow would be the first to tell you he's having a lot of fun this season.